Hey, this is a Curious Miniature Adventure. It's a podcast all about learning and growth and development within miniature painting. We don't do shallow takes here, we don't really wade. We like to dive, and we dive deep into topics. My name is Devin Bush, aka Brush Adept on Instagram and online, and I'm a miniature painter, I'm a teacher, I'm an instructor. I have won various awards at a few different events, local events throughout the country, like Las Vegas Open, like Nova, like Adepticon. And this is my co-host, Dan Dougal. He goes by Dan Dougal online as well. He's also a miniature painting instructor extraordinaire, and he has also won many different prestigious awards at events like Adepticon and even Monte San Savino. What are we going to talk about today, Dan?
Oh, we got a good one today, Devin. We are talking about crafting and tuning and fine-tuning our workflows.
Awesome.
So this is all about how the magic gets made, right?
Oh, I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
But first, what you working on today? What's on the
So
bench?
I've been working on. So you know that super secret thing that you've been working on. Well, I'm also working on a super secret thing that is for the same group, actually. So
Awesome.
So I finally finished up my other bust and dove right into this piece. It's without giving too much away. This will be my first box diorama. I've done dioramas before, but I've never done a box diorama. So I'm pretty excited. It's coming along well. It's off camera right now, so that I don't accidentally expose too much. But it's been a lot of fun, and I'm sure that once all this goes public, we can talk a little bit more about it. But I got 2 figures and a whole bunch of stuff inside the box that I'm working on. I've got bits still on the way, and so that's what I'm working on.
Oh, well, this is great content, right? I'm also working on that same super secret project that I can't reveal too much about. Just kind of plugging away at it. I have really, really dived into a lot of the planning on this because
Nice.
it's the way that I'm thinking about it is it's kind of an expansion on stuff I've either done once or twice or never done, and it's bigger and more ambitious than anything I've done. And so I've been having to kind of keep like a timeline of like, okay, well, these weeks are going to be for planning, and this month is going to be for building and stuff. And I've started the painting portion of it, and I'm looking at it and I'm going, oh my gosh, I have so much more to do. But I think it's feasible. I think it's going to be doable.
Good.
And I'm having an absolute blast because to see it come from like that weird kernel of an idea that was way too big, way too grand, and boiled down into like what I have here that I can literally hold is so cool. Like it's a big part of why we do what we do, to kind of like we're birthing our creativity, into the real world and stuff. It's so cool, so much fun.
Making something out of nothing.
Yeah, and then this particular project of mine is very much that. It's just like, how can I make this nothing turn into something to the nth degree? And it's been a blast. It's been a lot of fun. It's been a little stressful in sometimes, but it's been really, really enjoyable. Really enjoyable. And one last thing before we dive into our topic is these chats have really, really been helping me look into these works with a different lens. I'm so much I've been so much more open to trying a different thing. I've been doing a lot more like journaling with it and note taking and really figuring things out. And I'm realizing and learning a lot about myself as a person and as an artist. And so it's been enlightening. It's been really, really cool. Awesome. But with that, let's talk about workflow.
Yeah, so workflow. It's how the work gets done, right? So I think initially a lot of people, and I did, maybe you did too, is when you first start painting, you just get after it, right? There's no planning, or you're trying to figure stuff out, and you put some paint down on your palette, and you dip your furry stick into it, and you just go. And not too long after that, you start to realize, well, maybe one, I don't have any idea what I'm doing, and so you start
Yeah.
right. So you start learning, and I remember early on, like trying to think about how the whole process ought to work, and so this episode is all about how that process can work or should work, or how it should work for you, right? Um,
Nice.
and it starts off with your space.
Cool.
Speaking of space, I just built a new space, which is awesome. I'm very lucky to have this space here.
I'm envious of your space, man. It's so cool. It's so cool.
This is my happy place. I
Yeah.
love it down here. But I didn't always have this, right? Before this, I had a small bedroom, and before that, I worked literally on the corner of the dining room table until my wife kicked me off of it, right? So
You need to get your own space.
yeah, she's like,
Yeah.
I don't want you here anymore. Go someplace
Yeah.
else. But your physical space, in terms of your workflow, how you get the project done, how you work from the beginning, the middle, the end, you do all of that in a physical place, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so the physical space that you use needs to work with you, not against you,
Yeah.
right? And so, the first thing there is like just tailor your space to your needs. Like, I love looking at the workbenches or the hobby spaces of people from all over the place.
Sure.
And one thing that's really interesting to me is how in some ways they're all very similar, and in other ways they're all radically different. Right?
Yeah, I know what you mean. I know what you
Right?
mean. Yeah, it's so interesting to you're kind of like taking a peek behind the curtain of how
Exactly.
they do things. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. And so I as we were putting together notes and doing some research for this, I wanted to make sure that we included um, a, a little bit of topic around your physical space. So
Mhm.
some people like obviously a dedicated space is ideal.
Yeah, I mean that's what we were talking about. The prepping for all of this is like that's the goal. That's the dream. Is that you have something completely dedicated, you never have to touch, and
Well, you never have
that's
to
the
take
dream.
it down.
Yeah,
You never have to take it down. You don't have to move it. You don't have to pick stuff up so you can eat dinner on the table. Whatever. So a dedicated space is ideal, and if you can get that, it's awesome, right? And we'll be talking a little bit more here about like, well, how do you fine tune that space? Like things like the things you use most often, the things like your wet palette, your brushes, they should all be close, like within arm's reach.
yeah,
And things that you don't use very often, like put them away. Like all of the basing materials that I've got up here, right? Well, they're up there, they're handy, they're close, they're all labeled so I can find what I need when I need it. But when I'm not using them, they sit up
They're
on
not-
the shelf.
yeah. They're not
They're
like
not-
invading the active workspace because
They're not in my
using
way.
them.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So it's interesting in regards to like dedicated space. You could be very, very simple and just say that like, oh, it's just the space that stays, and it's dedicated to that particular thing.
Right.
But I think it goes a little bit deeper than that, and you're just touching on it right now. Is
Right.
having things accessible. That's a
Yeah.
huge part of keeping that space dedicated and workable. Really.
Yeah, yeah. I'm a big fan of shelves because I like to have it out of sight, out of mind. So if you stick stuff in a drawer, you're gonna forget about it. I do. I've got stuff in drawers. I've got a few drawers over here, but I have the same things in there. I have had the same things in there now for years, so I know right where everything is. But
Sure.
I have other stuff like over in bins or whatever, and I'll go back through bins a year later. I'm like, oh, I totally forgot I had this.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so that
I
happens.
feel it.
And so that's why I like to have obviously the paints are out, but the basing materials, a lot of stuff is out where I can see it, so I don't forget about it, right? So I can see where it's at. I can reach over. I can grab it when I need it. But yeah, I'm a big fan of shelves.
So I got a question on that. So you out of sight, out of mind. What kind of led you to figuring that out? That, you know what, I'm not a drawer guy, I'm a shelf guy. What do you remember what kind of led you to that?
I don't know if I was watching a YouTube video where they talked about that, and I was just like, wow, that's a really good idea. Because my studio upstairs, I had way more shelves. It was a taller room, and I had probably like 5 or 6 layers of shelves going all the way up to the ceiling. So the stuff way up on the upper top was like, bins and stuff I didn't really use very often. But as it came closer and closer to the bottom, I had my paints on the shelf, like right in front of me, so I could literally just reach up and grab a paint out of the rack, from right in front of me.
Yeah.
And the more that I did that, the more I realized how much I liked it, and so I just kind of leaned into the shelf idea. I've got a big circular. Whoops, knocking my lighter on. I got a big circular shelf unit on the side of my wall over here.
Okay, like a Lazy Susan type thing.
No, it's a wall mount, but it's a big circle,
okay.
And it's got shelves on it, right?
Oh, cool. Okay.
So it's and that's where I keep like inks, a bunch of additives, flow improver, all my glue, the varnishes. All I'm looking up here right now to see what else do I have up there, right? But that's where but it's always in a consistent place. Like I use it. And when I'm done with it, or when I'm cleaning up a desk at the end of a project or whatever, everything goes back where it belongs.
Everything has a place.
A place.
Yeah. That's really huge. And having that dedicated space, as I've kind of like you, I started my hobby journey on a TV tray, like one of those little fold-out TV trays, because that was just all the space I had. I threw everything into a bag, and because you don't know what you don't know, right? But as I've kind of leveled up and graduated into a dedicated space, I've realized that just because I have a dedicated space doesn't mean that, like, cool, everything's good. It's like, well, how does that space useful? So I've got certain things in certain places that make sense to me. I mean, if you were to come in here and sit down, you'd go like, oh God,
I don't know where is
where is everything, right? Yeah. So like my methodology on that is, like you said, keeping things within reach. I built a custom wall shelf for all of my paints. So that's where I have my paints, my most used additives. I've got a little rack for my brushes in there as well for like the stuff that I'm not actively using. But I even go down one further route so I'm right-handed, right? So everything is on a slight right-handed bias.
Gotcha.
So things are a little bit easier. So like I have a shelving unit. So I'm kind of a combination of drawers and shelves. So I've got shelves up here. I've got shelves over here. And then I've got drawers to my left and to my right. And I have them broken down. Like each drawer is a purpose for certain things. And the things that I use the most are on my right-hand side. Right? This side right here is where I'm going to open up the drawer, and I've got a little thing that's organized. This is where all these tools are. These are some sanding sticks and sanding paper, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So like,
it's
tailoring it is all I want to finish is tailoring it to what works for you. I think is really the part of the workflow that we're going to really dive into.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you mentioned the right-handedness of your space, because that's not something I ever really gave like conscious thought to, but unconsciously, like all my stuff is on my right hand. Just the way that I built. Now, some of that's just the geometry of this room, because I wanted to make sure I had the window available to me. But yeah, I'm right-handed, and so most of my stuff is sitting over here on my right side.
Yep. Yeah.
Interesting.
As a small aside on that, almost after every single show, I come back, I look at the place. It's usually a mess because I'm in the last, the 11th hour trying to furiously finish painting everything. Yeah. And so I go, okay, reset time. I put everything up, put everything away, but it also gives me a chance to do a couple of things. One is to decompress and digest all of the awesome stuff that happened at that event.
Yeah. Right.
But also it's, okay, I was just working on a project for the last 3 months, 6 months, whatever it might be,
Right.
what were my pain points? You know what? That stupid little box kept annoying me.
Yeah.
Let's find another home for it.
Yeah.
I shouldn't have this much stuff on my right-hand side because I kept knocking into it.
Yeah.
I had my compressor on by my right leg, and every time I turned, I would hear this thunk because my foot would hit the airbrush compressor, and I would thunk it. It didn't hurt, but it was just like, oh, that's annoying.
Right.
And so I kind of use that as a little bit of a reason to just go, okay, is this working? What's working? What's not working?
It gives you a chance to. You're a little deeper into the episode already because I think we're going to talk about tweaking, process and spaces and such as well. But that's a good point.
Yeah.
So, and again, I'm extraordinarily lucky in the sense that I have this huge dedicated space for my hobby. I didn't always have this. So when you have limited space,
that's
right?
That's real key.
Because I know a lot of people, I've talked to a lot of my friends, and I've talked to a lot of people who have limited space, right? They have a desk in the corner of their bedroom, right? They have, it's dedicated, but it's very small, it's limited, right?
Yep.
What ideas and thoughts do you have on something like that? Where you've got like maybe a small table or maybe a desk in a corner.
I like what I had kind of foreshadowed a little bit. I started on a TV tray, but then eventually when I got a slightly bigger place, I had maybe half of a desk. The other half of the desk had to be dedicated because I was working from home at the time. This was during like COVID and stuff like that. Yeah. And so I had to have that set up constantly. But so I only had maybe like 20 inches or something like that of available space. So I had to be really careful with what goes there. And so one of the things that I did is I had a little tool bag. Like I had one of those, those Milwaukee tool bags that you can get when you buy a tool or whatever. It comes with a little canvas bag. I still have it. That's what I use for my go bag. But I had everything in there that wasn't necessary to be on the desk. And nowadays there are these amazing portable spots where they're like laser cut MDF wood that like you literally have handles that you can set it off to the side, or even those little wooden boxes that have like a door. I know Monument sells an awesome little travel case thing.
Right.
I think solutions like that are really, really pivotal when you are on such a limited space.
Right.
Just the nature. It's just the nature of the beast. If you can keep everything contained.
Well, I think if you have limited space, like two key points of your space need to be like, yes, containment, right? Because it's very easy to kind of spill out over a much larger space. But the other thing is organization. If you keep everything well organized and contained, it's a lot easier to find what you need when you need it. And then I think you just have to be a little bit more organized with that tight constraint.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah. I think you're very much right. When I was having that very limited space, throwing everything into a bag, it made sense. But I kind of like a purse, right? It just is an empty void of just random stuff, and then you have to search through things, and it wasn't ideal. So if I had the knowledge I had now going back, I would have certainly been a lot more thoughtful, a little bit more intentional about where certain things go.
Yeah.
And even like a little MDF laser cut rack, or I've even seen those tabletop nail polish racks do really, really well. It only it only holds maybe 20, 30 paints or something like that. But what you can kind of adjust to is, well, these are the things that I'm using right now.
For this project.
I'm keeping everything else in the void, right? In that big box that just is a big pit. But I'm keeping everything really right there. Maybe even having like a little rack for your brushes, or like one of those little rests or racks, like sword rack type things, can work and help really, really well.
Well, and you said that you started on a TV tray. That's very limited space.
Yeah. And so my method with that was I had a little tackle box.
Okay, sure.
That because the tackle box, they kind of like have the trays that like
Yep.
slot out and stuff, and so
Yep.
that's where I kept all of my paint supplies, all that jazz. And the minis, I usually I had what are they called? Those foam battle box cases from Citadel.
Oh, sure.
Right? Like
Yeah.
the army box.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
when I was finished, they get the clear coat. They'd sit on like my nightstand for a little bit to let them air out, or they'd sit out on the windowsill or whatever. And
Sure.
once they were kind of cured and dried and all that jazz, in the box that they would go, they're away. They're not going to get damaged and stuff. So when I was ready to be done and ready, I could scoop everything up, throw it into that tackle box, close that up, slide that under my bed, fold the TV tray up, slide it on the side of my bed, and I was good to go.
Yeah.
It's
Yep.
obviously so much nicer. Like I have a dedicated desk that I built and stuff. It's,
Yeah, sure.
I mean, you can attest. You have a killer space. That's obviously the end goal, but not everybody has that at the time.
Right.
And I think taking being curious, asking, okay, what is the most necessary here? And there's a lot of cool products out there. And I'm not trying to say like you need to go out and buy these things, but if
Right.
you've got the disposable income to do that, like they're fantastic. They're so
Oh,
cool.
sure.
They're
Yeah.
so cool. I mean, I wish I had stuff like that.
Oh, one of the things about having a very small space, right, and staying really organized is that as you, if you're able to move into a larger dedicated space, if you keep that habit of staying organized, it'll come in really handy later on too.
Yeah.
Like it took me a while to kind of get used to my new space down here, but for the most part, like everything is kind of grouped together the same way it was upstairs.
Sure.
In my previous studio, so I like it took a little getting used to because everything was kind of reoriented, but I know where everything's at, or at least I know where everything should be, right? So sometimes
Yeah.
I have to go looking for something. Where did I put this? Because it's not where it's supposed to be, right? But yeah, if like everything goes back to the same place every time, you know exactly where to go to get it, right?
For sure. For sure. There's something to be said about, scaling up from that
Right.
small space into a bigger space. Now you're
Yeah.
that much more prepared. We're like, well, I was already doing this, and this. I can I can easily add in one additional, thing, whatever, one additional organizational component or one additional quality of life type deal. And
Sure.
it's not going to be that like spinning your head going like, where, I don't know where anything is,
Right.
Well,
And keep in mind too, like every system, every complex system that works has evolved from a simpler system that worked. You gotta
I
start
like
with
that.
a simple system that works, and then you can evolve it and add complexity over time. But if you just try to design a complex system out of the gate, it's more than likely it's going to fail. It's going to fall flat on its face, and because you need simple systems that work, and then evolve them and grow them and add complexity. And at some point
That's-
they might start to fail, but then you can roll back a little bit and then try again.
Yeah, that's very poetic. Mine is the same, but I'm a little bit more harsh, and I say keep it simple, stupid. that's
Sure.
That's my thing. But so you said something that sparked a thought. So you said you needed something like a good foundation to kind of start from, and then you can always fall back to. I'm a big history buff. I like reading and learning about history, specifically about the military.
Okay.
And I'm just fascinated by what these people can achieve.
Sure.
And specifically within like special forces and operations, they're just like the amount of willpower and fortitude is incredible. And one of the things that has stuck out to me is if you cannot rise to the expectations, you're going to fall back to your basic training. So what that is yeah, we can do all these flashy, amazing things, but at the end of the day, you may need to fall back on something simpler. So like your idea of making sure you have like a core foundation, something that is simple, that is, for lack of a better term, kind of bulletproof.
Right.
If the complex thing doesn't work, that's okay. You can scale it back to the thing that actually does work, and you can noodle on it for a little bit and go, okay, well, how can I make this a little bit more complex and it actually work for me?
Right. Right.
But I think a lot of it is just, having that mental thought to just expand and be curious, ask why, ask, is this working, and be okay and comfortable with the answer of no, it's not.
Yeah, it's fine to not know. And if you really don't know, like, well, let me try this. See how this works. Does that work?
Yeah.
No?
Experiment.
All right, well, let me try this other thing. And just keep experimenting until you find something that works, and then start iterating on that until it works better, and then a little bit better, right?
You and I are very much share a kinship in that, of just like these little experiments. Let's just...
Yeah.
Is this going to work? And you go, no.
I don't know.
It doesn't. Yeah.
Right?
That didn't work. But you know what? I learned something.
Sometimes almost immediately, I'm going to try this. Oh, no, I'm not.
Yeah.
So that's limited space. What about people who don't have a dedicated space at all, Devin?
Okay, so one of the things that's the hardest part. Right?
Yeah,
that is
really
the hardest part.
Tough.
And nothing kills your motivation, like what we talked about last time. Nothing kills your motivation or your flow or your creative spark like, oh shoot, I have to set everything up. I have to do. There's more tasks involved, right? It just gets so overwhelming to sit down to paint, because now it's no longer 30 minutes to paint. You've got to do all these different things, and now it becomes 5 minutes.
15 minutes to set up, and then
yeah. So I don't want to give the answer of, well, if you don't have a dedicated space, that you just do it.
Right.
Yeah,
just go get one.
Yeah, that doesn't help anybody.
Right.
So I want to say, make a dedicated space in your mind. Okay? Meaning, you're going to have to share the space, the dining room table, like you had said, right? That's obviously not ideal, because you're probably planning on eating there at some point, right?
Right.
But going in it, this is kind of a thing that I've done, is going in it with the mindset that, this is going to be dedicated for the hours of 5 to 6. So I know exactly where I'm going and when I'm going. And I have a bag or a box or some type of organizational container, so that it's 5 o'clock. I can put it all right on that kitchen table, that shared computer desk, whatever that might be, and I can go. So now your time is, now you got 5 minutes of setup, 50 minutes of painting, and then another 5 minutes to tear it all back down. Right. So you're being a lot more effective with it, and that's hard. I won't lie. That's incredibly difficult. I almost quit doing any type of airbrushing, because that was how I had to do it. Because I had to get everything out of the box, I had to set it all up, make sure everything is well ventilated, and by the time I was already set up, I'm like, cool, I got 30 more minutes, and now my airbrush just clogged. And nothing kills your motivation like a clog on the airbrush.
Nothing stops you dead in your tracks like a clogged airbrush, man. That sucks.
Yeah.
I hate that.
So I think there's a little bit of a mentality there. And that you're saying that I am dedicating this space in a limited time front, and that seems a bit oxymoronic. But does that make sense?
Well, I think I really liked one of the things you mentioned kind of before we got started, which was if you don't have a dedicated space, your temporary space, it can help if your temporary space is always the same physical location.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So in that way, you can start to optimize and start fine-tuning your setup time and your teardown time. So, because what you want to do is you want to reduce as much as possible any friction from getting started.
Yeah.
Right? If it takes you a half an hour to get set up before you can paint, that's a heavy load to lift before you ever touch paintbrush to a model, right?
Yeah.
But if you can get that down to 5 minutes, or even better, 2 to 3 minutes, how much better? The more you can reduce that friction. We'll talk more about friction in the process as well, but later on. But if you don't have a dedicated space, what can you do to eliminate or to reduce your setup time and your teardown time? And I've seen you can almost think about it like going to a convention and painting at a convention. I've seen some pretty ingenious devices and boxes and such set up where people will show up at a table, they'll drop their box down, the front door of the thing flips down, and they are painting within 5 minutes.
They're painting with a DeLorean. Like, they're just... you're like, what?
Right.
Where did that
it's
come
like Transformers
from?
type stuff.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's... and if you can buy something like that, or you can craft something like that, or you can fashion something like that in your regular space, even if it's not dedicated, that can help you get moving a lot faster, and spend more time painting and less time, worried about getting set up and tearing down.
So I'd like to give a quick little analogy. I'm a golfer.
Okay.
I find it fascinating. I love it. Because it's a lot of mental, like they say the longest, the thickest, densest 8 to 10 inches in golf is right between your ears.
That tracks.
Yeah, I really, really like it because it's these little micro problem solving and stuff. One of the things that I had, someone who's far better than me mention is like, you want to reduce the amount that you already have to think about as much as possible. Right. So if somebody gets in your head and tells you, well, you need to do this or do that, or adjust this grip or adjust your footing. No, you do the same footing. You do the same grip. You do the same, tee height. You use the same ball, because I don't have to think about that. The only thing I need to do now. Exactly. I just need to, I'm reducing my mental load. And
you're eliminating variance.
Yeah. So to liken that to this is, if you've got this section of your office desk or this section of the kitchen table or whatever it might be, you now know I don't have to think about it ever. Between the hours of 5 and 6:30 or whatever, I know that out of mind. I don't have to think about that ever again. I've got my little transformer kit,
Right.
I don't have to think about where everything is. I know it's all in there.
Yeah, it's a little go bag.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
I have a little go bag for when I go to local hobby night. I used to have the bag, empty it out, put all my stuff away, and then I'd go back and I put it all back in there. And so I just like, you know what? I'm going to buy an extra set of paint. I love doing that anyway. I'm going to throw some tubes in there. I'm going to throw a bunch of tubes and cool. That's my dedicated space.
You
so
got to John Wick that shit, man. Like, you just grab the bag and go. It's all ready.
Yeah. I have a portable light. I've got a second set of brushes. I've got one of those little Adepticon rubber mats. So, like, if we're hopping at a friend's place, I can set that up. I'm not going to get all messy or whatever. And it's just, hey, we're going to go, boom, I'm ready to go. And it's it just takes away that, cognitive load, and it makes it really easy. And you can apply that into having, no dedicated space at all,
Right. All right, so that's space. So let's talk about process and workflow, right? Because like all of this work happens at a space, right? Which is great. But before you start let's start with a project, right? Let's start because and as we go through here, we're going to be talking about your workflow for a project as well as a workflow for a session. And we're going to kind of jump back and forth, but we're going to break it down kind of like beginning, middle, and end, right? So before you start, though, right, before you start a project, I think one thing that has really helped my workflow is before I just start pulling paints out of the, off the rack and like, getting started on the model, maybe while I'm cleaning the model, spend some time really thinking about what is it that I want to accomplish with this project.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
What story do I want to tell, right? What emotion or emotions am I trying to convey to my audience, right? And the thing that I'm doing more recently, and I'm trying, like, I haven't always been good at it. I've done it kind of sporadically, but I'm trying to be better about it now, is documenting those things, right? So that
that's awesome.
When I get stuck later, I can come back to my initial thoughts, my initial goals for this project, and be like, okay, and kind of remind myself, what is it I'm trying to accomplish here? Because if once those things are done, like maybe I'm done with this project. Maybe it doesn't need to be super refined and like competition level if the goals that I set out for myself on this project are finished if I've achieved them.
For sure.
Yeah.
I think that's really, really, really poignant. I too have not always been great at documenting, and like project planning and such. I used to hate the building aspect because I like the painting. To me, that's my happy place.
Oh, sure.
That's the zen, right? And so I always went into this attitude of that, like, I don't like it. I hate the building portion of it. And I had somebody just kind of say, kind of change my mindset a little bit. Said, I really, really enjoy it because it allows me to explore the model with my mind. And I was like,
yeah.
Oh.
It's interesting because that's pretty much my approach. Like like the build, like I'm learning the model during that time, right?
Yeah.
When I'm scraping mold lines or if I'm gap filling, I'm already got my fingers and my hands on the model and I'm turning it over and I'm learning the volumes and I'm kind of holding in the light and whatever. I'm learning the model as I build it.
Yeah.
So that's something that I've never really minded building. I guess primarily because of that aspect of it. Is I was, before I get to painting on it, I got to spend a little bit of time kind of getting to know this model a little bit.
I find the process super valuable now. Like I have 180 degrees. I've flipped completely.
Yeah.
And I can't wait because it's like, cool. I get to, explore a bunch of different ideas. I have a little notebook off to my right here of, okay, this is the project. I write down the project, what the show is for, what the objective was. And that's where I can kind of I have a pen handy. Boom. I like this. Boom. I like this. I know he's going to be, the primary color is going to be yellow. Right?
Sure.
And there's also an engineering aspect of like, this is going to be built here. This is going to lay on top of that way. Oh, I didn't consider this. Maybe that might be something worth looking into, that I can look at it this way and take it off, paint what I need to paint, and put it back on.
Yeah.
If somebody built that for you, you wouldn't know that, and then maybe it might give you more headaches, down the line and such.
Yeah, and then the other thing before you get started, like there are different levels of planning. Some people do more planning, some people do less, right?
Yeah.
The way I always think about this is architects and gardeners, right? Okay. So one end, you have the architect. Everything is planned out. Everything, like the colors are chosen, the volumes are understood, everything's worked up in Photoshop ahead of time, right? Like everything's planned out. Painting the model is simply executing the plan. Right.
Okay.
On the other at the other end of the spectrum, you have the gardener. The gardener has an idea of what they want to do, but they start playing. They're very hands-on, right? They put this stuff in here, and then they put the figures in, and then no, that doesn't work. So they rip something out, and they try something else, right? Like it was not planned ahead of time necessarily. They had a general idea. Right? And the two people that I've always kind of thought of in the back of my head as archetypes for... Now, these are kind of opposite ends of the spectrum, but near those ends, right? At one hand, you have a guy like Steve Garcia. Mm-hmm. That guy plans shit out. Right?
Oh, his whole thing with, I don't make happy accidents.
Right.
That's like, oh.
Right. Because everything's planned out. Like that's the level of planning that he does.
Yes.
At the other end of that spectrum is another guy who's an amazing artist. Right. By the way, Steve Garcia is an amazing artist. I love his work. Right.
Yes.
But at the other end, another amazing artist who is very much in my mind a gardener is Chris Surrey.
Oh yeah.
If you read his book from the Art of series, like he makes substitutions and changes pretty late in the process. Like he's always he's pulling weeds out here, try a new plant there, like try that. No, that doesn't work. Okay, try this other thing. Like very, very different approaches to the planning, if you will, but both incredible artists.
Yeah, they both do great work.
Yeah.
So it's that's really interesting that you mentioned that. I find myself to be more like Steve in the way that I paint and the way that I kind of do my approach. I'm a lot more calculated. However, I love breaking that a little bit. I did a private workshop with Chris, and that was really uncomfortable when we were building this little diorama scene. I was like, he's like, it ain't working. Rip it off. And I'm like, but I spent all this time,
right?
Because but it's not working. Just rip it off. It's
not working. Yeah.
And I was like, how can you just be so callous? So he's just like, because it doesn't work. It doesn't help you. It's actually going to hurt you. Yeah. And so that little bit of mindset of just like, okay, I'll just rip that thing off. Oh yeah, you're right. It is working. So I have learned to embrace that a lot more, and learning when to just cut what doesn't work.
Right. It's interesting because I started probably more on the gardener's end of the spectrum, right? But as I've gained experience, as I painted more, I have learned that like I need to do more planning, and that really helps the piece. So I can't just like pull a model out of the off the shelf and like build it up and like get after it, right? I need to spend. I find that if I spend a little bit more time up front planning, I don't always have to follow the plan exactly, and I don't plan it nearly to the detail that somebody like Steve Garcia does. But if I spend a little bit more time up front thinking about how, answering some of those questions, what is it I'm trying to accomplish? What story am I trying to tell? What emotions am I trying to communicate? What lighting do I want to use, right? How do I want to convey those emotions through the volumes and through the lighting and through the colors and in the color palette that I'm going to use? If I spend a little bit more time up front thinking about those things, then it most often it results in a much more successful project.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. A big thing for me for the planning side is I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how to do this. How am I going to do this? Yeah. So this secret project that we started off with at the top, I don't know how to do most of the things that I'm wanting to do. I know a little bit, right?
Yeah.
But
you still have a vision for it. You still have an idea in your head, right? So yes. Like, some of that planning is problem solving.
Yeah.
Right?
For sure.
And some of that planning is, well, I still want it to have this feel. I still want it to have this.
Yeah, right. Exactly. And the thing that I found really helpful with this is I have my reference photos here, right? I literally printed out reference photos, put it in there, so I can always reference it. I have also literally like a to-do list. Like, what are the core elements, right? So, I've got this as a core element. I've got this as a core element. Yeah, so if I'm struggling in certain things, or I'm like, okay, how do I then break that core element into even further subtasks, I can do that. Sure. And it's I've been really, like I said at the top, like I've been really, really learning a lot about myself and realizing that in some instances, winging it, not a problem. You just go with the feel. But in other instances, it's like, no, I have to solve this problem. And I need to know what it is I'm going to do, whether I'm writing my thoughts, whether I'm just scrolling out measurements, or even just like, okay, I don't even know where to begin. All right, left side, paint this, paint this, paint this, paint this.
Yeah.
Got it. Yep. Okay, I can check those off and cross them off and stuff. So all that stuff really, really, really helps for a multitude of reasons.
And you mentioned something there, too, is gathering reference. Like, it is not a cheat. It is not cheating to use reference.
Yeah, not at all.
People have been artists have been using reference for as long as there have been artists, right? So go find reference before you get started. Like, gather up a bunch of pictures or a bunch of whatever it is. You can dig around on the internet. You can dig through art books, wherever you're getting wherever you're getting reference. Go take your own pictures for reference. Gather reference up, right, and keep them close because you'll refer back to them, a multitude of times.
Yeah. And so when we were kind of going through the layout of this episode prior to recording, you said something that I was like, oh, I love this. I wanna pick your brain a little bit. You said like gather your resources, but you said, I want to use my resources. Can you like talk a little bit about that? 'Cause it's
Yeah.
so cool.
Well, sometimes sometimes I remember things and then I forget them, and then I go back and I do something and I remember them again. I'm like, why did I ever forget that? So I'm working on this project. I've got a model I'm working through, and it's just not coming together. It's just not working. Like the colors seem off, the contrast seems off. I'm just like really kind of struggling with it, and I work on it some more. Well, maybe it's just the ass phase. It'll kind of work its way through, and I keep working on it. And I'm like, no, it's not. It still looks like ass. Something's wrong. Like what? And then I'm like, well, where's my references? All right, so I pull up a reference, and I'm like as soon as I pulled up the reference, I knew like, well, the color tone is off. It's just wrong, right?
Especially if you're trying to replicate something that exists already. That's important.
So I literally took one of my reference photos and printed it off on the printer. Well, before I did that, I pulled it into, I use Affinity 2. It's kind of like Photoshop. And I just like color sampled it and like did the big circles, right?
Yeah.
All right, so this tone right here on this part of the model is this color, big circle, right? And did that kind of all over. Okay, now I've got like this palette of colors, right? And it's all kind of laid out. And I just printed that on the printer. Now, is the color exactly right? No, but it's close enough, right? It's close enough. Sure. And so then I went and got that off the printer, and I grabbed some paints, and I'm like, how do I mix that?
Yeah.
And the colors that I had been using were just so far off, it's not even funny. I'm like, well, that's why it was just not coming together. Well, that's why, because I had the wrong color yellow on it, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So I've been working on it again since, and it's not done, but it's working so much better now.
Yeah.
Because the colors are right.
That's so awesome. I like that.
Using your don't just like collect your references. Use your reference, right? Like, anyway, that's really cool. When you had mentioned that, I just thought like my brain started ticking, and I was like, whoa, I have never done it quite like that. I think that'd be worth trying. And I think it's the first time I'd ever done it like that. And I'm like, why didn't I think of doing this earlier?
Yeah, and why not? No. In college, I had a literature professor who said something really poignant that's always stuck with me. Is like, we treat books as though they're sacred.
Yeah.
You own it. Write all over it if you need to. Like, take an active role into it. So why not?
Let your dog chew on it for a while if you like.
Yeah, that's what I do. But so you're actively using this reference in multiple different ways. One, you have it. You're examining it. Two, you even do a color swatching. So you're going, okay, where's my highlight? Where's my mid-tone? Where's my shadow? Where's my ambient reflection? Where's the Terminator shadow? All that stuff. So you're engaged even further. And then you're playing with paint.
Yeah.
How can I get close enough to this paint? Right. And then you're just slapping it next to it, and you're just going, yeah, all right, that works.
That was a little too dark. Lighten it up a little bit. Oh, that was too light. Darken it down a little bit. Yeah. Right,
exactly. And I think that's far more beneficial than what people might give credit for, because that's all part of the process. People think of, how long did it take you to paint this? Oh, it took me 60 hours to paint this. Well,
it's taken me 8 years.
Right. It's actually maybe it's 50 hours on the brush for that project right there, but also the years behind it, the examining, the printing out the reference photos, all of that it really sucks right into it.
And all of that work counts, right?
Yeah.
That counts as hobby time. That counts as work, right? Gathering reference. Now, you can't get sucked down the rabbit hole of the internet, right? You got to kind of stay focused when you're gathering up. But gathering up your references that helps keep you on track later on in the project, that counts.
Yeah.
Right.
I like to take them and put them in the physical. So part of this thing, that the secret project I've learned about myself is I don't do well with digital reference photos.
Mm.
There's some sort of disconnect for me that
Okay.
like I see it, I get it, but there's something about it that like I don't know, there's like a blocker in my brain. So
Yeah.
I bought a little not Kohler, what is it? Kodak. Little Kodak Polaroid printer that
Oh, neat. Yeah.
yeah, connects to my phone, and I
Yeah.
collect them all. I put them in a little album, and I hit print on all of them. And
Yeah.
cool, there's my little photo album for it. And so I put that
Nice.
all in my book, so that when I'm physically engaged with my
Right.
reference photos
So you got
a
a
lot
physical
more.
reference. Yeah.
Exactly. And then
Yeah.
the most common references I printed out, I've got the real color wheel. I've got the color zones for, the facial structures. I've got
Yep.
skin tone colors. I've got non-metallic metal.
Yeah, yeah.
All these different things that I'm always looking at, and I always have these as a reference.
Right.
And it's just something that's always, you just tick, tick, tick,
Mhm.
tick, 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 tick.
Yep.
And you said, you don't always have, that's part of hobby time. So
Yeah.
I want to kind of dovetail that into give yourself a little. I like to give myself a little bit of grace. Life gets in the way,
Yeah.
and we talked a lot about feeling, not feeling obligated or guilty to do this passion that we like to do. And it's okay if you didn't have time to hobby today, right?
Yeah.
Give yourself a little bit of grace. Life gets in the way. We're adults. We got stuff to do.
We talked a little bit about that in the motivation episode too.
Yeah,
right? Where look, sometimes like it's just not there, and
It's just-
that's
yeah.
okay.
And you having a plan, getting all of these things, phenomenal, right? It's
Yeah.
only going to help you, but don't force yourself to stick to that plan. Kind of like what you said
Right.
not too long ago is, well, I have a plan, but I'm realizing that I need to be a gardener in this moment, and I need to
Right.
abandon this part of the plan.
Yeah,
let's
yeah.
rip that out, right?
Right.
It doesn't invalidate what you started with, because
Yeah.
you started with something and you through the process figured out what didn't work. What's that Thomas Edison quote? Like, I didn't fail 999 times. I just found 999 ways how not to make a light bulb.
Right.
Yep. And that's
Yep.
so valuable that,
Oh yeah.
that even those attempts are so worthwhile. I'll give you one little story on that. I wanted to go in and paint after Adepticon. Took a class with Shistov, and I was like, cool, I really want to paint this bust, and I'm going to do my color mixing and just keep reinforcing and practicing. I spent an hour, and I hated every second of it. I hated it. I was so angry. Like, I didn't need to be that angry, but I was like, oh my gosh, these hands, they're not working.
Right.
But I had to sit a second and go, I know that doesn't work. Close the palette, put everything away, come back the next day, make my adjustments. Cool. I now know that doesn't work for,
Right.
it's too cold, or because, the color temperature is off, or the contrast doesn't work. And I come back in, I learned, oh, I'm much happier with this now.
Yeah.
And I think giving yourself just that little bit of grace,
Yeah.
I think is
Yep.
so beneficial, because, we want to have this be a healthy hobby at
Right.
the end of the day.
Yeah, of course. All right, so we've got our project all planned out. As much planning as we're going to do, right? Whether you're architecting or gardening, whichever. You've got a good story, you've got a good vibe going, and we're going to sit down and actually have our first painting session, right? Or our first
Yeah.
hobby session.
That's
right?
exciting. I love that part.
So, what I have found for me is like the first 5 minutes are crucial, right? So,
Okay.
number one, eliminating all distractions, right?
Okay.
Silence the phone, set it off to the side. Some people have found a lot of success in just leaving their phone in the other room, right? Or somewhere else. I like to turn on a little bit of music, but laptop, like my Achilles heel, honestly, is YouTube. It's very easy for me to get like, oh, let me just check out this one little video, and the next thing I know, a half an hour's gone. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, shit,
Yeah.
right?
Half an hour if you're lucky.
Right? So removing all friction for getting started, right? And I've got some thoughts on that here in a bit too. But remove all friction. Like You just need to like hit the ice and glide, right? Just go.
Ooh, I like that.
So activate your spell casting focus, right? Like big D&D fan, right?
Yeah.
For me, it's usually ambient music. I don't want words. I want noise. I want a beat, not too heavy a beat, right? Like it's just like, and depending on it can change sometimes on the project. It can change sometimes on the day, but like there's kind of a collection of music that I like to listen to. If I can get that turned on, like as soon as I step into the studio, I'm more likely to get brush on model faster, right?
Yeah, you're shifting your brain.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
moving exactly. I'm shifting my brain into work mode. I'm also more likely to find a flow state if I start my session undistracted, right?
Yeah.
So that first 5 minutes is really, really helpful for me.
Yeah, I would agree with that. So the first 5 minutes for me is usually like I go to sit down and I get so excited that I jump in the gotta go. I usually have to take a breath and go, wait a second, let's set myself up for success. I go get a drink, go get my water or that snack that I know that I'm gonna want.
Right.
And that way I don't have to break my flow state. I usually set up my tablet. I set up, my speakers and things like that for, whatever the mood that strikes me. And usually my spellcasting focus are reruns of something that I've seen 1,000 times.
Yeah.
I don't like music with any words in them, but I want something in the background. I did a private workshop with Albert a couple weeks ago, and we were putting up a playlist and everything like that, and he and I both mentioned something that we both really like synthwave music because it's that kind of like 80s synthy kind of ambient music and stuff, and
it's the Moog.
Yeah, and so Lane just goes, oh, let's just click this. Was this one work? And then for the rest of the 3 days, that's all we listened to. So we just had this background going, and we were able to just dive in. So it was when work was going, we hit that play, and boom, we were in it.
Right.
We were in it.
Yep.
I think that's so crucial. So I like to gather all that kind of stuff, and because like what we talked about at the beginning with having dedicated spots and areas and spaces, I know where everything is. I don't have to think about any things. The only thing I need to do is I need to get my drink. I need to turn on the tablet. I need to, whatever it is I'm going to be queuing up. And usually, lately now, I pull out my journal. What am I working on right now? Oh, that's right. Boom. I'm working on this section. I'm working on that section. Or I'm not feeling that. What can I do instead?
Yeah. And another thing that can help eliminate or help reduce some friction too is knowing what you're going to do before you get there. Right?
Yeah, I struggle with that a lot.
If you're going to paint in the evening, right? Throughout the day, while you're at work, save your energy for your art, man. Save your energy for your passion. The hell with work. Whatever.
Yeah.
But you'll have times throughout the day, right?
For sure.
When you're sitting in that meeting that should have just been an email, you whine wanders and whatever. So think about what you're going to do the next time you sit down to paint. Sit down, what am I going to work on? What piece of this am I working on now? Do I want to work on the face, or do I want to work on the shoulder, or do I want to work on the leather, or whatever it is? If you know what you're going to do before you get there, you're more likely to get right into it.
Well, it takes that first 5 minutes and makes it 3. It makes it 2. It makes it that much more effective to just dip right into that flow state. You pop on that spellcasting focus of yours, and you're all ready to rock and roll. And I think that's really important. It's really important.
Yep. So you're past the first 5 minutes. Now, we talked in a previous episode about based on your motivational style, maybe your session is a 30-minute session, maybe it's a 90-minute session, maybe it's someplace in the middle. Go back and watch the previous episode for that.
Click the link.
But whether your session is 30 minutes because that's all you have time for, or because that's what that's the length of session that kind of resonates before you need a short break. As you are working, like your project, chunk it up, like break it into smaller pieces. And you mentioned that earlier already, where you've got this giant, and dioramas are even worse, right? Because like you've got this giant project and you've got a million problems to solve. You've got a lot of problem solving you got to do throughout the course of this project, but one thing at a time. Break it into smaller pieces.
Yeah.
Solve this problem, get that working. Solve your, like paint the arm, right? Or like paint the whole thing up to like
70%.
70%, whatever it is, right? Get the sketch in, like get the sketching done. Make sure that the volumes and the lights are aligned properly, right? Before you start spending a lot of time refining, right?
For sure.
Sometimes, if you're working on a tabletop piece, like, look, I got 5 guys, I can paint all their boots in my session, right?
There's the chunk. Yeah.
Yeah, there's the chunk. Whatever it is, like however you want to chunk it up, like spend a session working on that chunk, right?
Yeah.
And maybe you'll work on a different chunk next time. Maybe you'll work on the same chunk for multiple sessions. However,
Sure.
But as you think about what you're going to do before you get there, and then when you get there, like work through that, and then later on we'll talk about like reflection and like coming back later.
Yeah, and so I really like that. I also I tend to zero in on those details way too quickly. So I always I have to rein myself back quite a bit. And so I'm always like top of mind, big picture, big picture, big picture, big picture. Yeah. And so I will even chunk it up into like I'll just cut it in half, like that big of a chunk.
Right.
And that this is the construction chunk.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, sure.
If I have parts of it that is under construction, parts of it that's under painting of those chunks.
Right.
If I'm not feeling the painting, I've got a chunk I can still go to, and I can utilize that side.
And you
of
can
my
jump
brain.
back and forth between them. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. And I'm very much a wind type, with that motivational style, right? Where I need that kind of like easy shift. And I've noticed about my brain, if I'm, especially when I'm like mentally tired and drained, the painting doesn't flow quite as easily. Well, if I have something that I can shift into in that creative aspect, that construction chunk, for example, it makes the project that much more effective, because I'm just plugging away at it. I'm just taking even half a step forward is still a step forward. That's really the most important part.
Yeah. Well, and I noticed this too on this little box diagram I'm doing. I got to a point where I needed bits. I needed like for some of the interior of this box, and so I have some friends sending me some stuff. I had some other friends sending me stuff. Well, why? I'm like, well, I can't keep building. I know I need to get the construction, the fabrication stuff done, and I kind of need to figure out sort of the composition and the sizing and all that, but I have to wait because stuff hasn't arrived yet. So let me pick up the 2 figures. I can paint on those while I wait.
Yeah.
And then some of the pieces came in. I worked through those. I got that done, but now I'm waiting on some additional pieces. So I've worked on what I can. I'll probably go back to the figures and work on them for a while until more pieces show up in the mail, and then I'll go back to building. So I'm kind of oscillating back and forth, but like you said, like I'm jumping back and forth between these chunks. Meanwhile, the progress of the whole piece, the whole project is continuing forward.
Yeah, and that doesn't work for everyone or every project, right? Because sometimes you really need, on this particular type of project, like a bust, for example, right? Yeah. Like there's not a whole lot that you're doing. You need to see that progress a little bit faster because it's it's more contained. But when you're in a diorama scenario, right, you need to recognize that it's going to take you probably 3 times as long as that you normally thought it would, and also the progress that you're going to see is a lot slower because you have all of these little things, these chunks that you need to attend
Right.
to. And I know I can get a little impatient with that. But I constantly have to, let me look at, even just having like a little photo of like, oh, that's where it was. Man, I've come a long way, right? I've got paint on it, or like it's pretty much mostly done. I just need to get a little feedback, or whatever that might be.
When working on dioramas, one of my big frustrations is waiting for epoxy sculpt to dry. I mean,
really?
To the point, yeah, like because so here's how I've adjusted my workflow for that is I'll tend to work on laying down new epoxy sculpt in the evening before I go to bed, right? So that's my evening. So now it can cure overnight, and then when I come back in the morning, it's ready to go. It's ready to go in the morning.
See, almost all of my hobbying is in the evening time. And so if I got to make sure I set that all up. Like, I don't have to worry about it because, that's finished, off to bed.
Right.
But you hobby in the morning. So that makes a lot of sense. Of
Yeah.
why
So I find myself like, okay, so tonight before I go to bed, I need to get this part done so it can cure overnight. So tomorrow morning when I get up and start painting, or, when I'm ready to keep working, it's ready to go.
Ah, okay. Well, hey, that's something that you've learned about like your particular workflow and like what is a pain point for you.
What are the lag times? What do I have to wait for? And to kind of line that wait time up with time where I'm off doing life stuff.
For sure. And a big portion for me, similar kind of a concept is, I've got the base of a figure and the figure separate. Well, while I'm constructing the base, and I have no choice but to let this dry because I can't do anything with it. Well, that goes off in the way. I start, whether I'm building the model, examining the model, like I missed a mold line, or I missed these gaps, I need to fill this, or maybe I just start sketching in some colors or whatever that might be, to be able to shift back and forth. Earlier we talked a little bit about efficiency versus like being effective. And that's been, so I work in warehouse logistics for, the audience, and at a plumbing company. And I think a lot about efficiencies and, making sure that, when you're doing these particular things, you're efficient with your time, yada, yada, yada. But I really want to make sure that with the time that I have allotted, that it's effective. And oftentimes, we kind of conflate the two. Because they can actually be synergistic and lead into each other. But when I'm thinking from these project perspective, because this is a hobby, because this is a passion, because this is something I genuinely love to do, I don't necessarily care about a full efficiency. Right. The point is to craft and create, and I'm here for it. I want to be effective with that. Now, obviously, if
the process is the joy, right? Like,
yeah, exactly. Yeah. But obviously, like, if I can make this part of the process more efficient, like, I'll give you an example. When I did commission army painting, I'm always having to mix this color on the spot. I'm going to go ahead and get a new pot, mix it, put my new color in the pot so that I don't have to think about that. That's being efficient, right? I don't have to waste all this time and stuff like that. Right. But, so that's kind of how I like to think a lot about this stuff is to be effective with your craft. Because at the end of the day, we do want to see the needle move a little bit.
Yeah, yeah.
Again, whether for D&D, competitions, box art, doesn't matter. We want to see progress,
Yep. Excellent. So there's a session, right?
Yeah.
Now there's the last, any place between 5 to 15 minutes of your session, depending on how long your sessions are, right? So at the end of your session, right, setting yourself up with a good spawn point. Right? So this this is the point where you're going to do any cleanup. You're going to do, like, a lot of times, like down here, I can just leave everything out and pick up right where I left off before, which is great. Sometimes I look around at the end of my session, I'm like, this is a mess. I need to clean up some shit, right? But if you do any journaling, now's the time to do it. Right here, before, don't get up and walk away and well, I'll write some notes down later. No, you won't. I never do.
Strike while the iron's hot.
Right. Journal now. If you're the journaling type, like do it now, and then leave yourself a good spawn point. Now, you laughed about that earlier, and
I love it. It's great, and I want to know what your what's in that head of yours.
Yeah. So this is a concept that I discovered probably on YouTube because that's my Achilles heel, right? Some time ago, but this was like, when you're playing the game and you find it's a tough game and you finally get to the boss and you fight the boss and he just destroys you, and so you go back and so you respawn and you go fight the boss again and he just destroys you, and you keep respawning. Maybe it's a Souls game, right? I haven't played a lot of Souls, but I hear those are
I love those games, and they're just as you're describing.
Yeah. And then at some point you realize, like, your spawn point, like, when you got to that, you did not have all the resources you need to beat that boss, right? You didn't have enough ammunition. You didn't have the right weapon.
Enough potions.
Enough potions, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
That spawn point is no good. That's a bad spawn point, right? So now you got to go back even further, right? And get to that spawn point with enough resources and with enough materials or whatever to actually beat the boss, right? So we're going to play a little, it's a thought experiment, right?
Okay.
Let's assume, and this works for a day. This works for a painting session. It works for a lot of, like, you can carve this up kind of however you want. Let's assume that at the end of the day, right? Well, today's fucked. Today went sideways. Today's screwed. Like, it's all fucked up. You might as well, like, just suck it up, get the dishes done, do whatever you need to do, right? And just go to bed, right? Because, and tonight, overnight, you die, right?
Yeah.
In the way that you die in the game, right?
Yeah.
Tomorrow morning, you wake up, the alarm goes off, you respawn, right? And you want, like, today's fucked. You want tomorrow to be a good day. Leave yourself a good spawn point, right? So if you get up in the morning and you still have the dishes done, and, your house is a mess and yada, 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 right? You're waking up to that's a bad spawn point. Leave yourself a good spawn point. So in the context of painting, right? If you leave yourself a good spawn point, it's also like, do you have, like, is your space ready for you to begin and continue at a good spot?
Are you set up for success?
Are you set yourself up for success as you're ending this session? So set your next session up so that you can. I've been thinking about this for, like, quite a while, and I like focus this thought experiment at various different things, whether it be work, life, painting, whatever. But yeah, if you set yourself up a good spawn point, it means you're able to, in the next session, like, go farther, slay better, whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
And
that's wow. I really like that. Yeah.
So set yourself up with a good spot. So at the end of your session, set your next session up for success. Right?
Yeah. I mean, so you got my brain thinking. So that could even be as simple as, like, well, I need to clean my space, like what you mentioned with the dishes. Going to bed, you're waking up with dirty dishes, and then now you're back in that bad spawn point, right?
This palette paper is trash. I need to reset my palette. I'm gonna go clean it right now.
Yeah. I think that's really interesting. And then, like, to activate your spellcasting focus even faster, I'm gonna set everything up how I need to be, right? Maybe things just got away from you in that particular process and that project, and cool. I'm gonna put all these paints away. I'm gonna set all this part up. I'm gonna clean that space. I'm gonna wipe down my mat, make Make it
Right,
real
sure.
easy,
Yeah.
as little friction as possible.
What music am I going to listen to tomorrow morning when I sit down? Like, take that decision out of tomorrow's hands, right? Because it's just going to cause friction. Like, I'll just set it up now. All I got to do is come down, press play. My palette's clean. Drop some paint on the palette and go.
You're ready to rock, yeah, for sure. No, that's really interesting. Yeah, when you said give yourself a good spawn point, I was like, I want to know what that means. I think that's very, very wise, and I mean just general advice in life altogether.
Well, and I've done that a lot actually, like in the evenings or whatever, because I get up so early that I have to get to bed at a certain time. Otherwise, like, I wake up and I'm tired, and it just sets me up for a bad day.
Yeah, it just doesn't work.
So in the evenings, like, okay, so make sure the coffee's made, make sure my lunch for the next day is made, make sure that all that stuff is set up. So all I have to do tomorrow morning is get up and go. Right?
Yeah.
I can come straight down to the studio, work on a project for a while, and while I'm down here, like, my lunch is already made, so I don't have to do that in the morning. Right? That's more time I get to spend in the morning hobbying. Right?
Yeah.
That's more time. And so I've just started like thinking of that in many different contexts over time, and I found it super useful. I found it like, I don't know, it works for me. Hopefully it works for somebody else out there.
I think, yeah, I mean, obviously with a grain of salt, right? Because some people don't mind. I think the majority of people are going to resonate with that. And, you're kind of putting words to this that, like, maybe about 4 or 5 years ago, I didn't really think about, and as I've kind of progressed, I've leveled up in this passion, this hobby, I've realized that there are a lot of those things that I need to do, and one of which is, like, I like to keep like a little paper towel by my desk, right? That's where I wipe my brush off on and everything like that. Yeah. Once it starts getting too crunchy and used, I toss it. Once I get to that point where I've folded this too many times, even something as simple as just tossing that and setting that up, and I touch nothing else, is one little bit less friction for me to get started. It's pretty powerful to give your future self a bit of a layup. And when we're trying to do something that we love, we don't. The struggle is always going to be there, but we don't want to make the struggle silly.
Right. Yeah.
I think about it like, choosing. We talked a little bit about like choosing the right equipment for your desk, whether it's your lamp or your chair or the airbrush or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
Could you imagine, Dan, if I told you that when you start your hobby day, every single day is going to be a new chair, completely different from the day before?
Right. Yeah.
Like
no.
It's like those little things are just these little annoyances that just we don't want to make ourselves struggle in that regard, right? Yeah. Let the struggle come from the joy of the process and creation and crafting, not from all of these little outside influences. And I think setting yourself up in any way that you can, it could be resetting your water pot, paper towel, or the entire desk every night or morning or whatever.
And while you're doing all that, celebrate. Like, you made progress. That's awesome, right?
Yeah.
I don't care how small the progress. Sometimes you make a little bit of progress. Sometimes you make a lot of progress. But, like, you made progress. And even if you got to redo it again tomorrow, so what? That's not failure. That's learning.
Yeah.
Right? Give yourself a little grace, like you said, right?
Yes.
But celebrate the fact that you just got to spend a session doing something you love.
Yeah. And I struggle with that a lot.
A lot of artists do, I think.
Yeah, I'm very, very critical, and because I expect great things because like I know I can do it. It might be just beyond my reach, but like it's there, I can do it, right?
Right.
And so I really loved that when we were doing this outline, you had put in just the word celebrate. It's like, oh yeah, it's such a good reminder, and I hope that helps remind others out there as well. You truly be proud. I mean, even if, like when I said about that bust, like I found out what didn't work. I found out what didn't work.
Right?
Yeah. And I don't ever consider any of those failures.
Right.
You make a big mistake. You make all these different choices or whatever that don't work. If you refuse to do anything about it and learn from it, then it's a failure.
Right.
That's my attitude, and I kind of carry that in my life.
If you keep the only way to fail is stop.
Yeah, like, absolutely.
Yeah. And then so in terms of workflow, and I think we've kind of talked about it throughout this episode already, which is making changes to your workflow. I think the biggest thing to help people, and this is the thing that helps me the most, make positive changes in my workflow, is when I get done with a session, when I get done with a project, right, stop and reflect. All right, let's think back on this. What went well? I mean, it's a bit glib to say, well, what went well, what didn't go well, what would I do better next time? I mean, there's some value in that, but also like just reflecting on, okay, what did I like? Right?
Yeah.
Where were the parts where I was having the most fun?
Yeah.
Where were the parts where I was just dreading life? And was that hobby related, or was I bringing in something from outside the hobby into that session? Right? And
yeah.
How did that cloud, my ability to work that day?
Great point.
Like just reflect back on all that, and again, so we talked a little bit about Enric's book before, and he talked about journaling. I'm reading a new book now, and she's talking about journaling. So I'm like, I'm starting to pick up like all these like antenna. Dan, journal. Dan, you need to journal. So I've tried to start a habit there. I'm curious about what that's going to do for me, because I hear from all the people who journal that it's like the greatest thing since sliced bread in life. So I'm going to try. I've been trying to try. I've been trying to like do it a little bit more often.
Sure.
And so, but that's an element of my workflow that I'm adjusting and evolving, even now. So even after 8 years, like your workflow will change. It will evolve. And you'll move into a new space, and it'll change again. Yeah, and it should
evolve.
Absolutely.
Like I said a little bit ago about how like after these events, I kind of, okay, what can I change? What worked? What didn't work? And stuff. I think, taking that time to reflect after each session, or maybe even just after each project, like depending how big or how granular you want to get it.
Right.
I think is really, really important, because it makes those decisions for you to evolve that much easier, right? Take those small chunks. It's easier to change those small chunks each time. I know for me, my workflow has evolved, and it evolves every time I have like a little bit of like a revelation, right?
Right.
And I took a weekend workshop or a class, or a discussion with a peer. Somebody mentioned, oh, I never thought about that. Like I took a workshop with Steve, and the way he explained how to utilize the airbrush in different parts of your step. Oh, I really like that. All right, so let me go ahead and incorporate that into my workflow in certain instances. Well, okay, well wasn't my workflow. How can I incorporate that in a way where I can be set up for success? And maybe it's just me, and maybe I'm the weirdo, but I think that's so fun. I find it so fun that I'm engaged in the process of that workflow, and like, oh, how can I just do that just a little bit better, a little bit nicer, a little bit cleaner? I get so excited about that kind of stuff, because it's something new, right? We like to do something new, something a little unexpected, something a little different, and so incorporating these things in your workflow And if we want to start from the very bottom, I don't have a space. I have a temporary space that only works so often.
Yeah.
You know, that gives you so much room for growth. And then you look back and you go, well, now I have, you know, a semi-dedicated space. Now I have a dedicated space. And, you know, now I have, you know, this dedicated space didn't work quite as well as I wanted it to.
Right,
I've adjusted this. I realized I don't like drawers. Shelves it is. You know, and it's all, it's these little tweaking and stuff. And it's kind of like mini painting, right? It's these little, tiny little problem solving and adjusting something that works for you. I find it a lot of fun. I don't know. Maybe I'm the weirdo, but I love it.
Well, and that's part of the growth, right? Is like, you know, the stuff I did 5 years ago would not work for me now, right? Stuff I did 3 years ago probably wouldn't work. You know, I would do things differently now than I did 3 years ago. I do things differently now than I did last week.
Yeah.
So yeah, well, there we have it, Devin. I think we've kind of exhausted the topic of workflow. Well, we have not exhausted the topic of workflow, but we've had a good discussion about it, I think.
Yeah. And I mean, all of this, like fine-tuning your workflow, I think this is not a finite subject. Like you said, this is something that should evolve over time. Yeah. I think we've kind of talked a lot about some really good core structures and pillars that we can all build off of. There's a couple little tips and tricks too that can also help, right? One of the things is taking pictures of your paints or your palette helps you remember, right?
Yeah, that's one that helps me a lot. Is here's all the paints I used in the hair. Here's all the paints I used on the leather, right? And just snap a picture on my phone, because later on I'll be like, oh shit, what was it? Right?
Yeah. You go, I don't know how to mix this damn thing, Yeah. And as you get more and more adept at mixing and color matching, it becomes less of an issue, right?
Yeah.
One thing that I wanted to mention, just as a tip and trick, incorporate stretch breaks, man.
Oh yeah.
We only have this body for so long. For me, I found that it gives me a little bit of chance to just get the blood flowing back into my body.
Oh, sure.
And it gives my brain just a quick chance to just pop it down into a lower gear and just relax a little bit.
Yeah. Well, we talked last time too about like the your brain cycle, right? Maxes out about 90 minutes. Yeah. So if it's been 90 minutes, like, get up, take a break, give your brain a rest.
Yeah.
You can come back and, and hit it again. But, like, give yourself a good 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah. And I find petting the dog really, really works wonders. I just go up and I annoy the heck out of him. I give him a bunch of scritches, and he gives me a couple of kisses, and then I'm like, all right, I got another half hour. Let's go.
Right. Sure.
Yeah. But awesome. Like there's lots of these little things that you kind of incorporate into your workflow, and then maybe down the line we'll do something a little bit more targeted about some of these things.
Yeah, I mean there's plenty of room to dig in a little deeper on some of these areas, right?
Always love it.
Awesome. Well, folks, thank you so much for another. If you're still with us, you don't know how much we appreciate you being here still. So tell your friends, tell your family, your mom, whoever, and paint something you love out there.
Yeah, and remember, stay curious.